Yo guys, it's Delio, and today we're going to be starting with the new Mini Monday series. It's going to be called Mini Mondays just because I do live stream it on Twitch. Little girl. She's not joking, I promise. That's just a new noise that she's making for I don't know what reason.
To freak me out.
Probably so. Anyways, just because we live stream it on Mondays on Twitch, on my Twitch more specifically. Hi, Ollivander. You can see Ollivander. Hi, buddy. The link will be posted down in the description below, as well as to the various socials for me, my wife Ash, also known as Aerenix. Her Twitch will be posted down below, and also Williams, whose Twitch and socials, of course, will also be posted down below. Whole lot of things going down below. Nonetheless, hi Ollivander. This first video, it's the live streams are going to be broken up into quite a few videos just to keep them somewhat short, somewhat sweet, just capturing maybe key details, key knowledge that we'll be giving out during the live stream, and maybe some funny moments as well. There will be lots of editing, just for the simple fact we also have Zilly with us during these live streams, so sometimes it can be a little bit hectic, but anyways, I hope you bear with us, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So I guess I will catch you guys next time, or maybe in the next stream. I hope so. Anyways, thanks guys. If you do like the video, I'm going to say this before rather than after. If you do like the video, please leave a like, maybe subscribe even. And you guys are awesome. I hope this helps y'all out. Love y'all. Catch you later.
I guess the first thing would be, when you're going to be painting miniatures, it's choosing the miniature, and why are you going to paint that miniature?
I mean,
now, there's actually two primary reasons, though. It's not just common sense. One, that's your character, or you're running a game and those are critters you're going to need, or you just think those figures look cool.
That's one valid option.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the two primary reasons.
Hey man, it's gonna look even cooler once you teach me how to do all this stuff.
I hope. And really, there's two primary materials you'll find for miniatures in a store. You got plastic like the Reaper Bones, and also a lot of Citadel.
Plastic ones right there.
And then white metal. White metal is a kind of pewter that is lead-free. They removed all lead from it in the late 80s, early 90s. In the case of ones from Reaper, they're in the Dungeon Dwellers and Dungeon Dwellers and Dark Heaven Legends lines. I also noticed some of them, such as the hat on this guy, do require assembly. His hat is not actually on there, if you notice.
What?
He told you this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just forget. I'm very forgetful. It's just me. What we went and bought all this stuff like
a week and a half ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
See, it feels like a month. It feels like a month
Wait,
ago.
how long?
A week and a half ago.
No, I swear to God, it's been a month.
No.
I swear to God, it's been a month.
It's been a week and a half.
Yeah, that's how our sense of time is such a skew.
Yeah. Now, next thing, of course, is going to be your paint. Now, picking your paint, you can choose any number of paints, but these little craft paint type paints, I would not recommend for miniatures simply because the pigment's large, it dries chalky and rough and doesn't look good. It's okay for terrain or vehicles
Yeah, because you're drawing larger on larger things.
The reason why we have this here is not to be used as paint.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to be using your blue tack type stuff to affix the miniatures to these, to use this as a handle. Even tiny little ash hands can use this as a handle.
I'm over there.
Now, the other primary kinds of paint are paints that are pretty much made for painting miniatures. I'm trying to not have the brand names visible. We'll talk about brands in a second, but for right now it's not as important. These have a finer grain of pigment. They have, well, really there's 3 parts to it. There's water, 4 parts. Water, a binder, which is what kind of keeps the pigment in place. A medium, which helps it spread and stick to what you're painting on, and the pigment itself. Most of the time when people thin a paint, they're just adding the water. There are some that are metallic, like this one. Basically what it is in addition to all of that, it also has flakes of either aluminum or mica. And the finer the flakes, the more real metal it looks. And then there's washes. Basically it's a lot of, well, there's 2 kinds. There's like this, which is a lot of medium and binder and not much pigment, where it basically washes over the figure. And another kind is actually ink that's been thinned down. Now when it comes to brands, we're gonna go ahead and talk about brands real quick.
Okay. So you went ahead, just because it was there and it was readily available. We went ahead and got the Army Painter just because it was there
For most of it.
shop. Yeah, for the most part.
We got one Citadel, simply because the Army Painter Gold is a little questionable at times. I've never had one not blow up on me when I first opened it up.
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely don't want it to blow up.
Now, the reason we chose the Army Painter is it's the minimum acceptable.
Yeah.
It's good enough for miniatures, but it's also cheap.
Yeah.
This 17 ml bottle averages about $3. Compare that to this 12 ml bottle that averages $6.
Yeah.
Citadel is not the top quality, but it's the top commonly available cost.
Yeah.
It's good. It's very good. I hate their pots because when you open it up, when you close it back, you'll feel it pop in the front. You have to go back and make sure it's popped in the back too.
Oh, or the paint will dry out. That, oh
yes.
man.
On top of that, basically, I'm going to go ahead and open it up.
Fresh new pot of paint.
It's got a little clip that it's got a little clip on the back. I'm going to close it up so I can show you. Well, first of all,
oh, I see. I see how that. Yeah.
You saw it fold back.
Yeah, I saw it fold.
It's got a clip on the back here that it catches the lid as you open it. And if you're not careful, that can actually go, the lid can go past that, so that when you close it, it spurts a little.
That's
but
yeah.
The overall paint quality is good. The only other reason I dislike them is all of these Army Painter paints, except for the metal, which has the black cap, and the wash, which has the red cap, are roughly the same consistency, roughly the same density of pigment to binder to everything else.
And for some pigments, that just doesn't work as well.
Well, no, that's not the problem. The problem is Games Workshop, for their Citadel paints, instead what they'll do is they'll say, this color, we think you should best use it as a base coat. This color should best be used as a thin down layer paint. And this color should best be used as a dry brush. So you've got all these different densities of paint.
Oh man, so that just makes it even more
It's not just more confusing, it's if you're trying to use a color for something they didn't think you should be using it for, it's a lot harder. Now,
makes sense.
Other tools. Bring that box down.
Yeah.
We have This is
Citadel cutter.
It's not a cutter. It's
What
a
is it?
seam scraper.
Seam scraper. Okay.
It's a roughly 1.5 millimeter wide stamped tool steel, and it has a perfect, sharp 90-degree angle on all edges, and a curve so that you can use it to follow the shape of the figure. What you would simply do is you'd scrape against the mold line.
Oh, I see it scraping off your fingernail right there.
Exactly. That's how sharp this is. You're not going to cut yourself with it.
Yeah, of course.
But it will remove the mold lines and what's called flash. And of course you can do the same thing
With an X-Acto
with a
knife.
knife. Now there are some areas that you're going to be more effective with an X-Acto because of the fine point, like on the inside of an elbow that's been bent a significant amount,
Yeah.
Right in here, you're not going to be able to get that thick tool in, but the X-Acto you can. And then also for paints, we have something that he's getting ready to start doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are hematite beads that I got from a local hobby shop, local craft shop. Hematite is roughly the same density as iron, and it won't rust because it's already an oxide. Put one bead in each bottle of paint and you'll have an agitator so that when you shake it up, it'll help shake it up, just like what you have inside your
Paint can.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, while I finish up
My goodness.
and I discuss some of the other brands of paint that we don't have here,
Yeah.
he will be...
Go ahead and.
I'm going to go ahead and do one of them just so I can show you. So just cut
Okay.
off the end of the string.
Just do that.
Yeah, that's it. Just cut it off. All right.
There we go.
Now, what I usually do is,
They're everywhere.
yeah, I'll take it, I'll shake it up. I'll then use one corner of the paper towel and grab the nozzle, because sometimes it will explode, and if it's on the paper towel, cleanup's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Then one bead.
Okay.
Pop it back in, but don't push it down until you got the paper towel on it, because sometimes it explodes at that point. And then
And it did just a little bit
yeah,
right there.
you got a
Yeah.
little bit of paint on the paper towel,
Huh?
Kind of like leaf juice.
Yeah, kind of like
Exactly.
vape juice. Yeah.
and then just start shaking it until you can hear it. Hear it a lot better than that. The shaking we're not going to worry about just yet, because it's best done right before you actually use it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go ahead and do that, or you talk about the other
Now,
brands of paints.
The third most common brand of paint in the United States is Vallejo. And it's made in Spain. It's got an immense number of lines and sublines, and you've got Vallejo Model Color, you've got Vallejo Game Color, you've got Vallejo Model Air, Vallejo Game Air, and so on and so forth. Then you've got specific lines that they did for games in Europe, like the Mecha line. And it's about on par with Citadel paints in terms of overall quality, but like the Army Painter, they're a single consistency. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's two consistencies. They've got a standard consistency, which is a lot like the Army Painter, and then they've got an airbrush consistency, which, well, it's thinned down and is designed to be used with an airbrush.
Now I won't need it with the
Metallic, yes. The wash,
Metallic.
no.
wash. No. Okay.
Some washes do, but I'll put a glass bead instead of a metallic bead
Why is that?
because it's lighter.
Okay. So it doesn't need as much agitation.
It just needs
Okay.
a presence there.
Okay.
And with what we're going to be doing, and with that particular wash, it's not as much of an issue.
Okay.
Now, there's two particular brands of paint that have a different structure I'm going to talk about. The Citadel, the Army Painter, and the Vallejo, you can all use standard artist matte medium from like Golden or Liquitex to thin them down to make what's called a glaze.
Okay.
There's two brands of paint, War Colors and Scale 75, that you can't because they use a gelatin medium. It's still water-based, but it's a different kind of medium, so they don't mix well. Mixing on the figure is one thing. It's an advanced shading technique, but like mixing on your palette so you can be ready to put it on, it'll start to separate in your palette.
Okay.
There also tend to be a little bit more translucent. There's a type of priming. I'm going to go ahead and peel this figure off of here. Priming is just the base coat that lets the rest of the paint stick to it. And this is a gray primed figure. And just a very basic. Zenithal priming is when you painted it black, then you come back in at a 45-degree angle with gray, and then at a 90-degree angle with white. So you've got the undersides are almost black and the upper sides are almost white.
So that way you get your highlights already.
Well, you get your shadows more than
the shadows. Okay.
And Scale 75 and watercolors really work best over Zenithal because you've got that on there. Most of these paints, after a couple layers, are opaque. And it would cover up whatever you tried to do.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another thing. The reason why we don't just put a color on and call it a day. And I'm going to get some soda because my throat's dry.
Makes sense. It's not sponsored by Coca-Cola.
No. And that's because at a small scale like these miniatures are at, two things don't function the same. Shadows and what's called ambient occlusion. I'm sure a lot of you play games and you know what ambient occlusion is.
Well, I've seen ambient occlusion, but I've actually never actually understood what ambient occlusion is.
Set the paint down for a second.
Okay.
Hold your hand out like this.
All right.
Fingers closed.
Okay.
See the lines between your finger?
Yes.
Even though the light's going right in the same direction, the lines between your finger will always be darker.
Okay.
Because what's happening is when two objects get close to each other, light can't bounce back out from between them.
Oh.
And it self-shadows and becomes darker. So even if I was shining a spotlight right into the center of my hand, you would see
still look
a black
little
line.
bit. Yeah.
Now, and then on top of that, there's shadows. Shadows don't work the same at that size because you've got a difference in proportion to the wavelength of light. Wavelength in light is measured in nanometers, infinitesimally small, but its effects on a shadow are more visible as the smaller you get.
Yep, there. Oh, Ollivander. Easy, buddy.
Yeah, that one's starting to come out already.
Yeah.
Yeah, fortunately that's just the light we don't have to worry about. Yeah. So, the two things that we do when we're shading a miniature, because there's shading and highlighting. When we're shading a miniature, we're creating the shadows underneath.
Turn this down just a little bit because it's washing out our faces.
Okay. But
Also because the outside light too.
There we go. Yeah, well, it was washing out the side of my face.
You're creating the shadows, which in some cases, some people will even go so far as to do the self-cast shadows, like on how my arm is putting a shadow on my shirt. Mm-hmm. And we're doing the ambient occlusion. A wash by itself will only do ambient occlusion, unless you carefully go back over the areas that would be shadowed.
Yeah.
Zenithal priming, that I mentioned earlier, will only do the shadows and won't do the ambient occlusion. So if you're using both, you've got them covered.
Okay.
Now highlighting is, see how my fingernails have a brighter dot of light reflecting off them than the rest of me? That's a highlight.
Okay.
What that means is a shiny material will have a sharper highlight, whereas a dull material, it'll be more diffuse and spread out, and usually not as bright. So that's why we paint them the way we paint them and don't just put a single solid coat and call it a day.
Yeah.
Now, next comes brushes.
Oh boy.
Yes, I got a couple packs of cheap brushes.
Oh,
really cheap brushes.
Cheap brushes.
They're actually pretty good quality for being so cheap. $1.99 for 3 golden Taklon brushes. And I stuffed in a couple others.
It doesn't sound so bad.
Now these others are like between $6 and $10, depending. These are, unfortunately they are artificial bristle because I could not find any authentic sable brushes in Memphis, except at Art Center for $20.
Expensive.
So these are the closest I could find. These are a size 2 and a size 3. These will be used for almost everything. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull this to a point. Now, they have a moderately long bristle for the size of brush they are, because a long throw is more forgiving when we're doing miniatures. What I mean by throw, when you brush across a figure, it's how much it pops back, how stiff it is when you're bringing it across a surface. A tight throw is a stiff brush. A long throw or a loose throw is a springier, more flexible bristle. Also, let me go ahead and use the where did the X-Acto knife? There it is. Let me use this as a pointer. Bring it up. Parts of the brush, since I know that they probably know, because I know at least Ash has other art training.
Yeah. I'm dumb.
Yeah, this is just a handle. No, it's just a handle. This part, the metal part that holds
a little bit more.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, we need to focus on the actual. This part is a little bit too much. Yeah. This part is called the ferrule. Let me pull back to there. Yeah. This part is called the ferrule. It's what actually holds the bristles onto the handle. You never want paint to get into the ferrule, because that will cause the bristles to splay. It'll cause them to fall out, and it's basically the end of your brush eventually.
More water? Alright, so that was the end of part 1, or section 1 really, because that was only the first 20 minutes of the first live stream. Anyways, that's where I'm going to cut it right here. It'll jump right back into the next video. Probably posted tomorrow, maybe 2 days from now. Just give me some time to edit the next section. Anyways, guys, thank y'all so much for watching. And as always, you're awesome. You're great. I love you. Leave a like. Maybe a comment. Tell me if I'm doing something messed up. I don't know. Maybe subscribe. Maybe. Just maybe. Maybe. Alright guys, I'll catch y'all later. Bye.